The Adventist Interpretation. In Daniel 12, 5:13, the prophet is still by the river Tigris, where he was in 10 to 4. Now, he overhears a conversation between two heavenly figures and eventually joins in. This passage parallels Daniel 8:13, 14 in several ways. Both take place besides a river, both involve two anonymous heavenly beings, and both involve the question, how long? How long shall be the fulfillment of these wonders? 12:6. Be as indicated above. This refers back to the vision in chapter 11. Gabriel had given Daniel this long explanation to help him understand what will happen to God's people. 10:14. Now two other heavenly beings appear, and one of them, for Daniel's information, asks Michael, the man clothed in linen, a question. The answer in verse 7 defines the time of the end as that which follows the 1260 years of papal supremacy and persecution. In this answer, Daniel was actually given the other half of the answer to the question asked by these same celestial attendants in 8:13. That question concerned the trampling underfoot by the papal power of both sanctuary and host. In 8:14, the answer given was that the sanctuary would be trampled down till 1844. Now the answer is given that the host will be trampled down till 1798. And in the ensuing inquiry by Daniel, an answer by Michael will be given the relationship between these two periods. 1. 1290 days 12:11b. And from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away and the abomination of desolation is set up, there shall be 1290 days. The taking away of the Tamid the daily is mentioned 3 times in the book of Daniel. Daniel 8:11, no specific time is connected with it. Daniel 11:31 again. No specific time or date is given. Daniel 12:11, from the time 1290 days. It is important to note the parallelism between Daniel 11:31 and 12:11. It is important to note the parallelism between Daniel 11:31 and 12:11. 11:31. Forces shall be mustered by him, king of the north, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. Then they shall take away the daily sacrifices, and place there the abomination of desolation. 12:11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice is taken away, and the abomination of desolation is set up, there shall be 1290 days. The two texts are clearly parallel and refer to the same events in history. Now, if 11:31 refers to the past, so must 12:11, because Scripture interprets Scripture. If the two events in 11:31 and 12:11 are not the same, this principle becomes irrelevant. In Daniel 8:11, the daily refers to Christ's intercessory ministry, which was usurped by the work of the priests through the Mass and the confessional. By sacrificing Christ anew in every Mass, the papacy has removed Christ's heavenly ministry in the thinking of the people. How long has this been going on? In May 1998, Pope John Paul II issued his pastoral letter, Dies Domini, in which he challenged Christians to ensure that civil legislation respects their duty to keep Sunday holy. 12. In the same letter, he speaks about the attendance at Sunday Mass. Early in the history of the Christianity, he says, people had to be reminded to attend Mass. Sometimes the church had to resort to specific canonical precepts. This was the case in a number of local councils from the 4th century onwards, as at the Council of Elvira of 300, which speaks not of an obligation, but of penalties. After 3 absences, and most especially from the 6th century onwards, as at the Council of Agda in 506. These decrees of local councils led to a universal practice, the obligatory character of which was taken as something quite normal. Here the Pope says that particularly from the beginning of the 6th century on there were universal statutes which made it obligatory for people to attend Mass. As Seventh-day Adventists, we say that in the 6th century, the daily was taken away and the abomination of desolation was established. We begin the 1290 years with 508. Why? Primarily because deducting 1290 from 1798, which is understood. What happened in 508? In 496, Clovis, king of the Franks, became a Roman Catholic. All the other Germanic tribes who had dismantled the Roman Empire were Arians, and therefore in opposition to the Pope in Rome. Clovis defeated the Visigoths and became the first civil power to join up with the rising Church of Rome. France, therefore, is called the oldest daughter of the Roman Catholic Church. After his great victory over the Goths in 507, together with his Burgundian allies, Clovis came to Tours, probably in the middle of 508, to hold a victory celebration. There he met Byzantine envoys who presented to him the decree naming him an honorary consul of Rome. 14 The joining of the civil and the religious powers Franks and papacy at that time was an important step in setting up the abomination of desolation, which refers to the unscriptural teachings of the papacy and their enforcement through the union of church and state. It is one of the ironies of history that France, the power that helped the papacy at the beginning of the 1290 years, was the power that brought about its demise at the end of this time period, when Napoleon in 1798 had Pope Pius VI taken prisoner. 2. The 1335 days 12b. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1335 days. No specific event is mentioned for the beginning of the 1335 days. The context, however, seems to imply that it began at the same time as the 1290 days. If this is correct, the 1335 days ended in 1843-44 at the time when the first angel's message was being preached. This is also the last year of the 2300-year prophecy, which runs from the fall of 1843 to the fall of 1844. The 1335-day prophecy is not mentioned in connection with the activity of the little horn power. Rather, it is related to a special blessing for those who live at the end of that time period. Another blessing for the time of the end is found in Rev 14:13. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Blessed indeed were those who lived at the time of the Advent expectancy when the first angel's message was preached in England and America, and blessed are those who die in the faith of the third angel's message in the time of the end, for they will take part in the special resurrection which will precede the second Advent and the first resurrection. Conclusion: the evidence from Scripture and the spirit of prophecy does not support the concept that the time prophecies in Daniel 12 are still in the future. The Adventist interpretation, which, in harmony with the historicist principles of interpretation, places these time prophecies in the past, is still the best solution to the difficult texts in Daniel 12, 5-13.